Hey everybody, this is Greg with Phoenix Automotive, and today I'm working on a 2006 Audi A4 again. We're getting towards the front of the interior here, and I'm going to be taking apart the whole front end here of the interior with the steering wheel and the column switches and the gauge cluster, and finishing off with the steering column removal from the front end. So we're basically doing a full left side of the dash, or right side if you're wrong wheel drive, part of the dash. Not wrong wheel drive, that's not the one I want. Wrong side drive. If you drive on the wrong side of the road, that's the one I want. It'd be on the right side if you're on the wrong side of the road. I don't know. Anyways, we're going for it. So here we are on the interior of the car, starting on the steering wheel and the airbag here. Before I get started at all, the first thing you need to do is disconnect your battery and wait about 5 or 10 minutes before you unplug anything on the inside of a car that has a yellow wiring harness on it. We're going to see one that's going to be behind this airbag, but before you go any further, make sure that your airbag is disconnected. It'll be about 5 or 10 minutes by the time you actually get to the part where you're taking the airbag out. Well, I guess not 5 or 10 minutes, but it'll be a little while, so do that before you get started. First thing we need to do here on the back side of the steering wheel, you see I have it turned sideways so that it's vertical like this. On each of those sides, there's a little clip back here, or cover rather. Use a small screwdriver to back that guy out this way. That comes out like that. It's going to be really hard to see in here. I'll try and move the whole thing so hopefully it shows up. I don't think it's going to though. There's a T30 Torx bolt holding the airbag on from inside of there, so I'm going to go get that real quick. So I've got my T30 now. It's actually in on a bit of an angle, about a 45-degree angle or so. Go ahead and loosen that bolt up. It won't come all the way out, just make sure that it's loose as much as it can be. Then we're going to spin the steering wheel over to the other vertical like this and do exactly the same thing on the back side. There's another cover right here on the back side. Make sure you save those. Obviously you're going to need them to put it back in. And the same thing, we get a T30 on an angle. On the back of the steering wheel. Now once you have both of those loose, you'll see the steering wheel is or the airbag rather, is pretty loose here. So we can go ahead and remove, depending on what you're removing here, there's several places you can remove this. There's 2 clips on the back of the airbag. If you're just replacing the airbag, you can do those 2. You don't have to though. What you can do is use this harness right in here, which connects to your steering wheel stuff. That should just pull right out. My other one just already disconnected, so I'll have to show you how that works in a second. But this one's just going to pull right out, like so. That gives the electric to all of your steering wheel controls. And the last one is right over here. It's the main airbag connector. Pushes in like that. So I'm going to pretend that wasn't already disconnected pretty badly. And you pull it towards you, and it comes right out. It's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be on this one, but this hinges, pushes back, and as it's pulling back, it just pulls right off. And that way you don't have to screw around with the ones on the inside of the airbag, depending on what you're doing with the car, so you can be the judge on that. Get the wheel back to straight so that you can have an idea of where you're at. Make sure your wheels are straight, which mine are. Now we're going to be looking at a M12, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to have to check on that, but it's a triple square. And again, I mentioned if you're going to be working on Audis or Volkswagens on any kind of regular basis, make sure you pick up a triple square set. They use this all over the car. Here's an M12, so I'm back with this. So take out that center bolt, and that'll free up your steering wheel to come off just like that. The next thing we have to tackle is the steering column trim around here, which is held on with 2 bolts underneath, one here and one here. You're going to want to take the key out at this point. So I'm going to put the ignition back to park so that I can get the key out, because the column trim is going to be coming over the key to get out. So we're using a T10 Torx. Once those two screws are undone, you'll feel that the top is loose, but the bottom isn't quite yet because there's one more screw on the underside here. It's a hex bolt. I believe it's 4mm. It is. On this one it's pretty loose, so I can just do it by hand, but as you can see here, I've got the socket on it. You can use a screwdriver, a hex driver, or anything else you might have that works for this application. Okay. Once that screw's done, the whole thing will pull off like this. Now on the last part here, you'll notice that you've got I'll show this a little bit closer here. You've got the adjuster here. You have to kind of slide this to the side to get it to come out like this, to get it to come off of the adjuster there. So that gets the bottom side off, which brings us back into the top side here. Now there's a trim panel right in here between the mode and the check button. I'm using a small screwdriver to kind of pop that forward. It just pries out towards the front. And that's how you get that piece out. Now adjust the column down to the bottom and lock it in place so that you can get this piece to come forward, but not quite all the way out. You need to get these 8mm bolts right here, one right there, and the one over here has already been taken out, but one over there as well, holding the rest of that on. And that'll slide underneath that trim piece. Now we can do the, might as well just do the instrument cluster at this point. You'll see there's a Torx all the way in the back there and a Torx all the way in the back there. They are T25. So grab your T25 Torx and take those two screws out. One there and one here. And once those two are loose, you can lift up the bottom of the instrument cluster. And the whole thing should come out. And once you have the cluster out, there's two wiring harnesses on the back. One's right here. Push down on this little tab there, and then the green one comes over. You can actually use a small screwdriver for this, and it works brilliantly. Push that down and then this up. Very easy to take them out that way. Again, over here, same thing, down and then up. And that takes your instrument cluster out of the car. Now the column switches are actually pretty easy to get out. On this one, all you have to do is just look on the underside, pretty much right where the other 4mm hex was that we took off to get the columns trim off. There's another one hiding up in there. And that's the pin that holds the whole assembly, the whole clock spring. I'm going to move this out of the way. And the clock spring and the column switch assembly is all held in by that one screw. So once you get that screw off, the whole thing will be able to start moving forward. And I say start moving forward because you do need to get all of these wiring harnesses off of the back side as well before it'll actually free itself up. Okay, the first one we're going to get out of the way is this wire here. It kind of comes up and over a little hook back there. And comes around to the other side where it's held on by this piece of tape. Then up into here where we're going to use our clip pliers. We're going to use the clip pliers on this piece here. Pull that out. And then over here on the lock cylinder, small screwdriver will get that the rest of the way out. So that's the first major one. The second one actually doesn't have anything holding it in. It just pulls off. So there's no quick connect or disconnect or anything like that. It just pushes on. So that's that one. And then the last one on this side anyways is blind. Let's pull that out and show you. But there's a clip on the back side of it over here. So it's kind of in like this. You have to push that with your finger on the back side and pull it out of that. Now that brings us over to the last one here is going to be the airbag. And you can see I just pulled that off. This just clips onto the back here, but it'll just pull right off. And then we're left with the airbag one, which just pulls back. I'm going to use the screwdriver. And once it pulls back sufficiently, it just lets go. And that is how you get your column switches and all that kind of stuff, clock spring, etc., off of the steering column. So now we're down to here. The next thing we're going to be doing is taking this wiring loom off of the side of the car, or off of the side of the column. It's held on right in here. Use the wiring clips, pliers right there to take that off. That gets you down to this point. And at this point here, you're basically just left with your steering column. Now the steering column is hinged in the back here. There's a hex right in the back here that you have to get. I believe it's a 6 millimeter hex. Yeah, there's a 6 millimeter hex all the way in the back here. That's going to disconnect the steering shaft from the inside there. So we'll do that first before we start dropping anything, because once we do these last 4 bolts, the whole thing's just going to fall down. Once that screws out, you can pull this whole thing right off. And once we disconnect that back section there, the last thing we have to do is these 4 right up on the top here. There's 2 on each side that hold the steering column to the dashboard. One there. One here. Oh, I almost forgot one of the things right up in here. This is my bad. The shift lock has a clip on it. Move that clip up and out of the way. Like so. That clip looks like that from the top. And once that's out, this whole thing will just pull right out. Oh, it has to be unlocked. Put the key back in. And this whole thing just comes right out. So now we've got the key locked in there, at least for the time that we have the steering column out of the car. Get back to this. One there. And then the last one, just be a little careful with it, because as soon as this bolt comes down, the whole thing's going to fall. So make sure that you've got it pretty well secured before you take that. And that's how you get your steering column out. So now you can see we've basically taken apart the whole dash assembly, or at least the steering part of it, of a 2006 Audi A4. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the next how-to video we do.